The Imaging Hangout podcast with Darren Robbo Robertson, Adam Burgess and Tom Cross. Talking anything and everything with a little bit of production chat thrown in for good measure. Dress code, business on top, party on the bottom.
Back again for another Imaging Hangout podcast with myself, Tom. We've got Adam.
Hi.
And we've got Robbo in Sydney.
Howdy.
And this time joining us, we've got wonderful guests, Steve Stone in Pittsburgh.
Hey, howdy.
And Gavan Bruderer in somewhere just outside Salt Lake City. I can't remember.
Hey, guys.
Nice to meet you guys. So
Welcome
you
aboard.
will henceforth be known as Gav and Stoney. Welcome along.
Are those our rugby names?
They're your rugby names. Welcome along. Yep, indeed. I had...
Nice.
Can it be Gavo? I
Yeah.
feel like an Aussie name
No,
should be Gavo.
no, Gav. If I gave him Gavo, every Aussie on the planet would say, "What the hell are you doing?" No, Gavin would be Gav.
Oh, really? Does that not work?
No, doesn't work. You got to
all
know.
these years I thought I knew my Aussie
You've
slang.
got to know where your O's go. That's right. Exactly.
I thought it was either an O or a Y.
No, it was Stoney. That's where Stoney comes from. Stoney and Gav.
There's a Y,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a Y. We'll find an O.
He's a good bloke, that Stoney.
We've got Robbo, you've got Gav, and you've got Stoney. So you've got them all covered.
As long as we know who's who.
I know. Now, on to the more important people, our two guests. Give us some background. Stoney, how did you get into this game? Where are you working currently?
I've been freelance voiceovers for the last 20 years. The first 13 years of radio, I got into radio when I was 19. The first 13 years in radio, I was behind the scenes production, imaging, and really started focusing on voiceovers the last 4 or 5 years in radio. And the last, I worked all over. I worked in California, Ohio, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, New York City. The last 3 years I worked in radio was New York City at what was once 92.3 K-Rock, which was the Howard Stern station at the time. So I wrote, voiced, and produced the imaging for 3 years there, and then jumped ship at the end of 2002, and have been on my own freelance voice and creative all this time, and I've been very, very fortunate. I've worked with a lot of different stations, a lot of different markets, countries, and I just consider myself a working stiff. I love to work with other creative people. I'm not somebody who enjoys being a disconnected talent. You know, like I like interaction. So the more I can interact with the producer or the program director, the better. And so that's kind of my thing. I mean, I originally was focused a lot on radio, but when I went on my own, TV started kind of clicking for me. So I've done a lot of TV and radio, and that's pretty much my balance is 50-50. I do a lot of radio imaging and I do a lot of TV news work. I've been doing for the last, holy smokes, is it 11 years now? 12 years I've been working for CNN. So at any time, anywhere in the world, you might hear my voice, which is really pretty staggering to think about. Been very, very fortunate with that. They've been very, very nice to me. And that's also helped me get a lot of local television station work for news in other areas here in the States. So I'm very, very fortunate. So one of the things that kind of fits my personality is everything I voice is usually under 30 seconds, and it has to be turned around in even quicker time. So that kind of works out, good for my personality and the fact that I come up from radio when everything, was always a mile a minute. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I consider myself very fortunate, and I love to work with other people.
Do you still get that buzz when you hear your voice produced by someone else on air, whether it be radio, TV? Does it still hit you in the same way?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is some things that I voice and I'll hear back, because I don't hear everything. I don't get sent samples of everything I do. So if I'm watching TV, I might pick something up, or if a producer sends me samples of what we've done, it's great. But sometimes you hear your voice and you're like, wow, that sounded good, or it's the exact opposite, where it's like, oh my God, they used that take. I should have never included that take. It was the worst take of all. So it's a constant kind of mental game. But yeah, I mean, it's strange. I think my children probably find it even more strange, because they'll be listening to the radio or watching TV, and they won't know it's me. And I'll say, hey, that was your dad. And they're like, that was you? And pretty much their first reaction is they're kind of indifferent nowadays, because it's like, it's not they grew up around me doing all this stuff, so it's not like such a surprise, but they also just care about first world problems like the Wi-Fi's too slow, or there's no food in the fridge. Why aren't you and your mom, why aren't you guys going to the store and getting us food? So that's pretty much,
Exactly. You really should feed your kids more often. But
yeah. I mean, so basically, I'm fortunate. I don't take myself too seriously. I mean, I love what I do and I take what I do seriously, but I like the fact that my family doesn't really, focus on the fact that I've got this unique job. It's just, hey, Dad's down in the basement working, and that's pretty much it. So.
And Gav, what about you, mate? How did you get into this crazy industry, and what do you do these days?
I've wanted to do radio since I was probably 6 or 7. I went to a concert, and outside of the concert, there was a station. It was a Clear Channel station at the time, and they had a trailer with a studio in it, and I thought that was the coolest thing. You go to concerts and you're doing your show right outside, and so I started bugging the DJ that was hanging out before the concert like every day after school, just like, I want to come down, I want to see the studio, and he also did imaging. So, for a long time, I really wanted to do on air and all of that stuff. And as I got older, I think I was like 13 or so, I heard a power intro where they had a jingle over the intro of the song. And I called him. And I'm like, what was that? And how that is cool. Because I love jingles. I was, a jingle geek, and I was like, that is cool. How is that done? And he's like, oh, that's, you lay the vocals, and I'm like, okay, cool. I want to do that. And so, I started bugging him more about the imaging stuff. He introduced me to Pat Garrett, who's a voice guy, and I started bothering him at, I would say, 14 or 15, and he gave me my first paid imaging gig after, learning how to use a crack copy of Adobe Audition, and he gave me my first gig. It was like $200, and
Peter Quizgard?
Yeah.
Hey,
big ups to Pete. Yeah.
Oh, God, you finally found someone who knows what you're talking about. It's taken like 3 episodes, but finally we get there.
Yeah.
It's not
big,
just us,
big ups. I owe my career to that guy. So
those who know.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, it was like $200, and I paid for like prom with that, and it was cool. And so that, I kept doing that through high school. Little like odds and ends, small market stations would hit me up, and they'd be like, oh, well, we need, 20 sweepers. Will you do it for $50? And I'm like, sure, whatever. And it started that way. And then eventually I graduated high school, and at that point I thought, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm going to be in LA before you know it. And then I made some life decisions, like having a baby at 19, and reality kind of sets in where it's like, okay, well, maybe New York and LA lifestyle isn't in the cards. So I started kind of looking around, and there wasn't a lot of radio jobs around. And through the grapevine, I heard that Clear Channel was hiring a production assistant in Salt Lake City. And so I called the production director, and I'm like, hey, I heard about this job. I do imaging. I've never made a commercial in my life, but you should hire me.
I love the balls.
And he's like, yeah, send me a demo. And so I sent him a demo, and he called me. He's like, okay, well, it's temporary, because it's, the person who was currently doing the job, she was on maternity leave. And so they were like, we can guarantee you like 5 hours a day for 3 months, and this is the pay, and do you want it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I took that, and I quit my part-time job in order to take it, because I'm like, this is either going to work out or it isn't. And if it doesn't, then I guess I'll figure something out.
And what was the part-time job?
What was the part-time job?
Yeah.
Taco time. I was a morning shift manager at
Wait a minute.
Time.
Morning shift. You mean
Breakfast.
Yeah, it was like 6 a.m. Yeah, we would do breakfast burritos, and
is a
then
breakfast
the switch
What's
over.
a breakfast burrito? Am I being dumb?
It's something you need a diaper for afterwards.
Egg sausage. Yeah, exactly. It's like all of the reject food from the day before, and then we just put a lot of hot sauce on it.
Oh my God.
Look, these types of jobs are character building, and the very first job I could get at 15 was for McDonald's, because in the UK you had to be 16 to get a job, but McDonald's would take school leavers, and I was the youngest in the class, so I went there for 8 months, and it was hard, but it is character building. But I always thought that, the little stars they had, I don't know if they still have them there now. I thought you started with 5, and when you got down to 1 and lost the last one, they probably turned you into a Big Mac. That's the last you'd ever hear of you.
I think Adam's definition of special sauce was probably different than theirs.
We should move on and play some imaging.
Just quickly, Steve.
Yeah.
Myself and Adam, we used to listen to a station called XFM in London. They did a show with K-Rock called Import Export. Does this ring a bell to you?
Yeah. I forget who was part of that, but that was I don't know how long it was on. I don't think it was on for very long. Yeah. It was I think it was like a special thing. Yeah, but
were you working with a presenter called Ian Camfield at the time?
He got there, I think, right after I left, or close to it.
Okay.
When I physically left the station, I was still doing work for them for about a year, so there was a transition there. But there was a lot of really cool musical things going on because it's New York City. The access to artists, the access to venues. I remember very vividly when Audio Slave became a band. They came to the station to New York to kind of debut live on the Letterman show at the time. And they played on top of his marquee of the Ed Sullivan Theater. And I was walking back to the subway from the station, and I stopped in front of the Ed Sullivan Theater and watched them performing on top of the marquee. And I thought to myself, you know what? My job is pretty cool. This is a pretty cool thing. I'm just going to stand here. It's 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm watching rock royalty that just fused together into an unbelievable band. So there was a lot of special one-off things that happened that I thought was really awesome that you just wouldn't be able to experience anywhere else than that right there and then.
We've actually got some of this production that that Tom recorded from his DAB radio 20 years ago.
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stand by. With the radio. Stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now recognizing the best. The top 5 songs from K-Rock New York.
This is the top 5 songs from XFM London.
This is Import Export.
This is...
There you go.
A little bit of presenter on the end there.
Yeah. Badly clipped.
It's my buddy Jude Corbett.
Yeah.
Great voice.
I think he did a lot for X as well at the time.
Yeah, he used to do...
Yeah, he's one of my... he's one of the people that I idolized when I was getting into doing more voice stuff than production, because we were using him in Pittsburgh, and then he replaced me when I left New York.
I see. Full circle.
Yeah, Jude is one of the nicest guys, and he's still based in Chicago, and he's just a really, really cool cat.
Well, let's play.
That's great voice.
I was just gonna say I want to hear more stuff. I love that. That's, to me, that sounded like it could be on the air today. It sounded tight.
It does, yeah. It's like 20 years ago, and it still sounds hot.
Yeah,
You've got a few more cuts there, Robbo.
I do. Let's play one more. Let's play one more ID, shall we? How are you doing?
K-Rock Import Export. Number 1 from XFM in London. Import Export.
Number 1 from XFM in London.
that is awesome. See, that's the stuff that gets me excited. It's like I want to open up a Pro Tools session and start producing.
There's so much going on, isn't there? It's great.
It's a lovely alt sound. When we've said this before, the producer that was at XFM, a guy called Ben Needles, a friend of mine, is an incredibly good producer.
One of my favorite effects ever has always been stuttering, but not normal stuttering, but just taking the first consonant of the word or whatever, and just sampling it to where it's,
Choose a word.
I'm trying to figure out the word I'm trying to say. Yeah, like as far as not the usual, but just kind of like almost like taking a sliver and then pitching up and pitching down, and I love that. To me, that'll never go out of fashion for me. But I'm also just one of those geeks where that just gets me excited.
Well, there's lots of different ways of doing it, and I remember being asked about how to stutter. You can do it in such a way that it sounds sort of pedestrian, but I've always quite liked taking different tones from the voice, different tones from the word. So it's not necessarily a letter, but it's just a part that you can juggle around with, and you can make a rhythm out of it. But I think a lot of people now get it done with Effectrix and Looperator and various other plugins that are now on the market, which didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah, when I was working in New York, I used the Orban Odyssey workstation, which kind of died, I think, in the early 2000s as far as they stopped making them. But that was a great machine in my opinion, for that rough, edgy production of K-Rock. It really lent itself well. The only issue is I ended up getting like a tennis elbow from using the machine, because I would hit it so hard with my fingers that I ended up having to wear like an elbow brace.
I know a couple of people that are still using the Orban Odyssey.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Was it? Do you know Madrigal?
Yep. Mike Madrigal, and Pat Garrett still uses it to cut up stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it was a great machine, but I almost kind of wish that a company like Adobe or Avid would have bought the intellectual property and somehow fused the tactile control with Pro Tools software or Adobe Audition. It would have been the ultimate DAW, in my opinion.
Am I right in saying, Steve, when you got to K-Rock, you were a Pro Tools user and you didn't know how to use that? You had to learn.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing. When I first got into radio, I was 19, and that was back in the days of tape. So I still have scars on my thumbs and fingers from editing with razor blades. But I learned as soon as I started doing digital production in the mid-'90s, I learned on some archaic machines like the Roland DM80, the Roland DM800, which I thought, wow, I'm really moving up in the world, because the screen went from 2 inches to 4 inches. And then in 96, I jumped into Pro Tools, and at that time it was Pro Tools 3. So that's a ways back. But yeah, so since 96, I have been on and off using Pro Tools. When I went to New York, I was like, whatever. I didn't even think about it. I thought, well, they must have Pro Tools. No, they didn't. So I replaced Brian Kelsey was the imaging director there before I got there, and I replaced him. And thank God he was sweet enough to stay a couple of days and kind of give me like a crash course on the machine. And I came in like during the weekend and just kind of taught myself. And once I got it, it was second nature. But yeah, it was a little hard to jump into the fire and not know the tools. But that's actually, I always enjoyed that about jobs, which is sort of like, expand the skill set. As I'm fine with it, just as long as it didn't take too long and made it seem like I was, slow to get things done. But it took some time, but it was a great piece of machinery. If you ever get a chance to get your hands on one, it's a pretty cool thing.
That jog wheel is so smooth.
Oh yeah. It was a RAM-based jog wheel. So basically when you would scrub back and forth, it sounded like you were racking reels from a reel-to-reel machine. So you would edit by hearing more than seeing. And so I learned, it just brought me back to my analog days, because it became very intuitive with feel, and I could feel, where I wanted to make an edit instead of seeing it, because the waveform was very small on the screen. It wasn't.
Well, really, it sounds like it's a very good stepping stone to go into the digital realm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I learned to use it. I'm glad I used it. I'm also glad that I used the god-awful Roland DM80, because it was the first digital production that I was involved with. And this was 93, I think. And, we were amazed because we had I think it was a 25 megabit hard drive.
I love it.
Yeah.
So basically you could pretty much record a 60-second spot, and that was it. And then you'd have to erase. But, it's battle scars. It's also, it's amazing to think how much things have evolved over the last, 15, 20 years. I mean, nowadays, if I'm in the car and I have an emergency pickup to do, I pull my phone out and I plug in an iOS interface into my phone, and I'm able to send off audio from the inside of my car. Yeah. It's really James Bond craziness.
Yeah. It's brought up a memory of mine that I hadn't thought about for a long time, learning Pro Tools. There was an imaging guy at the station that Tom and I started, a guy called Ali, and Tom had moved to Leeds to start an imaging job at Galaxy, which was a dance brand, and I was going for a few jobs at the time, and Ali allowed me, he moved on, and he was one of the imaging guys at Capital, so this was 2003, I think?
Yeah, 2003.
And I had this baptism of fire with Pro Tools, just really trying to get my head around it because I was on Adobe Audition before that. And I went to Capital and he snuck me into the building late at night. And I took a sleeping bag in with me and he just went, right, I'm going home now. There's the studio. There's the toilet over there. Don't go anywhere else. You've got all night, play with Pro Tools. And that's what I did. I was at Capital in Leicester Square overnight, dodging the security guard and playing with Pro Tools for 12 hours. It was fantastic.
What a great place to learn.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that for a long time.
Well, we should go from back in the day to current day and play some of your guys' imaging.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I think we should play some of your Gavs, yeah.
Any requests, or should we choose?
I've got one I'd love to hear.
Today, a queen was born.
Mix 92.3 honors Detroit's own Aretha Franklin. Happy birthday to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin.
It's Mix 92.3. What you want?
On March 25th, 1942, Aretha Franklin was born.
She began her career as a child singing gospel at New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit.
And eventually signed a record deal with Atlantic Records in 1966.
Hit songs like Respect,
Chain of Fools,
Think,
A Natural Woman,
I Never Loved a Man,
and I Say a Little Prayer propelled her past her musical peers.
By the end of the 1960s, Aretha Franklin had come to be known as the Queen of Soul.
Today on her birthday, Mix 92.3 honors this musical icon.
We love you, Miss Franklin.
Looking out.
Nice.
Was that Vanessa?
Yep. Yep. That's Vanessa and then Cayman Kelly.
Yeah. Boy, Cayman
Power.
sounds great.
Yeah. So I picked that piece out for a specific reason. The first three pieces, those are just like quick little rollover sweepers that they're doing on Aretha Franklin's birthday. I don't know when that is. I produced it last week. And then the third piece, the musical montage, that one actually, I picked it out because this was a point that I wanted to make. I've heard it brought up in a few imaging clubhouse rooms and discussions, and that's kind of the use of shells. And, I would love to take credit for everything that was in that, but the majority of that musical piece was actually a shell that was produced, I believe, by Dom Nero at Hot 97.
Right.
And that was a piece that they produced when she passed. And it had, a bunch of musical parts and some live recordings of her. And when I got this project, I was going to do the whole musical montage on my own. And I listened to that and I was like, you know what? I don't know that I can do much better other than to remove, the funeral-y drone at the beginning and talking about how old she was when she died and stuff. But like a lot of the musical hook edits were from the shell. And so what I did is I pulled them out and kind of rearranged things. And I think that there's, in this day and age, there's like two types of producers. There's the solely shell producer who, they're also a music director and an afternoon jock and a receptionist.
Wearing lots of hats.
Yeah. And then there's the other producer who is so hands-on with everything that they can't let themselves use something like that. And, I'm producing anywhere between 30 pieces a day to on crazy days, 60 or 70 pieces a day. So when I can find things that, speed up that workflow for me,
allow you to go home for dinner,
it's like, and Dom is such a good producer too.
Absolutely.
That was such a great piece that I had to steal it. So that's why I included that, was to make that point that you can use work parts and
But you
craft
can't
them.
tell as well, because you've
that's
rearranged
right.
it so it doesn't sound like a shell.
Yeah, you've made it your own in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've just described that. But I'm actually interested in the concept itself, because it's something that Australian radio used to do a bit of, like that birthday sort of stuff. It doesn't really happen here a lot anymore. Are you guys doing a lot of that?
Well,
was that just a one-off for a certain thing in the breakfast show or something like that?
No, I think that one's pretty market specific. I mean, Aretha is a Detroit artist. She, grew up in Detroit, and so they're very proud of her history and her success, and so obviously that's a very black market, and that is a market that's really proud of Aretha, and I love that because that's a station that I don't think Aretha's in normal rotation, but on her birthday, a lot of people in Detroit kind of
everybody's playing.
Yeah, they're celebrating her life, which is awesome.
I love any sort of music history features, and I think that well, Gavin, what you were saying as far as the market specific with Detroit, and that being not only Aretha's hometown, but that was the home of Motown Records, and that whole thing. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, more of that, please. I think that I'm a fan of trivia. I'm a fan of music knowledge, and I think that never goes out of style, in my opinion, because you can do whatever you want for each format.
Plus, it paints a picture as well for the listener, which is so important with imaging.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
And you've also got two movies that are one movie already came out about Aretha, and there's another movie I believe coming out this summer. So it's timely. It's
Stoney, let's play something of yours. Any picks?
Whatever you want.
Whatever I want. All right, let's go here.
I like the king of the candy. Wednesday.
King of the candy. You read my mind. Here we
like
go.
that one.
Oh Jesus.
Z102.9.
Hello, ghouls and goblins. It's the Hit Keeper. Tonight's tale is devilishly delicious. What happens when 16 adorable pieces of Halloween candy enter the Z102.9 crypt? You choose their adventures, and only one will make it out to see the full moon of Halloween. Are you brave enough to help determine King of the Candy? Keep listening to Z102.9, kiddos, because your vote determines which candy makes the cut. Makes the cut! Get it? Listen to Play Along, beginning Wednesday on Z102.9.
That's great.
Channeling your best Vincent Price.
Nice.
It's funny. That's one of my favorite stations to voice for. It's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and the copy that they send me is always fun. It's extremely localized, specific to their audience. Nothing is, there's no collective. They're independently owned, so all the copy is what they want, and so. I'm fortunate because the producer will say, "Hey, we're doing this Halloween thing. Have fun." So
have fun. We do.
That's what happens.
Listening to the stuff that you guys bring along, you guys being guests on this show in general, I always sit and think how lucky we are that we get to work in this industry and do stupid stuff like that. There's not too many jobs you could actually say that about.
No, Again, I've had jobs before in my life. This isn't a job.
Yes, that's right. I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life. Yeah, absolutely.
What should we play next then?
I was going to say, let's pick something else to Gavs. What about... here we go.
If you still love Zima, slap bracelets, and Nintendo Game Boys, this 90s throwback is for you on My 99.5.
Oh no, who's that guy?
Steve
even if you're listening in your van.
Down by the river.
My 99.5 plays the best 90s throwbacks.
I was interested in that because I was making 90s throwback sweepers yesterday.
Yes.
That's funny because you said you were going to play something back of Gavin's, and then I hear my voice, and I'm like, what? Oh, I get it. Because Gavin and I work together.
There you go. I didn't make that connection, but there you go. Are you? I
have to say, because... Go on, Robbo.
No, I was just going to ask Gav if he's writing his own stuff.
No, so my job is literally just production. I don't send VO. I don't write anything. It is It is all imaging production now. We handle imaging for about 100 iHeartRadio stations. So they send all of the stuff, and it's my job to wake up in the morning and produce, and then produce some more, and then at 5 o'clock I'm out.
But you do now get to do that from home.
I do, yeah. Yeah, that's nice.
So how many stations did you say? 100?
Yeah, the exact list is it's around 100. It could be more or less, but yeah, we've got a great big spreadsheet, and I'm sure I could look it up.
And how many are in the team?
So we have 2 full-time producers, and then we also have a team of producers that handle national formats that we can call on in the event that we're overloaded.
So are you producing stuff specifically for each station, or are you retagging?
No, most of it is custom production. Wow. I mean, there's like some stuff that we do, around like holidays, or especially with cash contesting that is company wide. If I create one set of keywords for a station, I will take that session and just replace the VO, because each station has their own VO. Mm-hmm. But yeah, most of it is, I would say 90% of everything that we do is like station by station, brand new stuff. I'll retool and reuse sessions.
Wow.
But yeah, for the most part, it's still very hands-on. There's very little, just slap a tag on it and send it out the door.
Wow.
Do those stations actually have their own time, as in Monday and Tuesday you have to do this cluster, and Wednesday and Thursday it's this cluster, or is it first come, first serve?
Yeah, no.
How do you juggle that?
It's first come, first serve. They use a website to submit their copy and their VO. And then you submit it, and usually it's a 48-hour turnaround time. So it's tight turn on a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of just in order of what comes in and what's needed first. There's a lot of PDs, they'll kind of re-image their station to freshen it up, and they'll send, 80 sweepers in. Whoa. And those are sometimes not 48-hour turnarounds.
Yeah. I bet.
But and then on the flip side, we'll also get, here in the States, they do studio naming rights. From the Burt Brothers Tire Studios, and so that stuff will come in, and a lot of times they'll be like, hey, there's money on this. If we could get this by tomorrow, that'd be great. And so it's juggling, but yeah, no, there's no set time for what station gets what. When it's kind of just first come, first serve, and we try to keep their turnaround.
And this is multi-format, right, as well? So you're not just doing CHR, Hot AC, you're doing a bit of everything.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, CHR, rock, all of it, yep.
How do you deal with the creative process then? Like, is it basically just a script and a voice track turns up in front of you, and you've basically you've got 15 minutes to turn that around, because otherwise everything else for the rest of the day doesn't get done, so you just grab the first thing that comes to mind, or do you actually get some time to stop and think about what you're doing?
I would say it varies. For the most part, I'll see stuff before the VO is actually returned, because they'll submit the copy and then the VO is still coming. So I can kind of plan it out, what I want to tackle first.
So are the stations submitting the VO, so you don't have to deal with that? You can see the copy and it's coming from, it's this station in this state, so it's going to be this VO. I'll wait for that.
Yeah, the stations, some of the stations will submit to their VO, and then we also have kind of an intermediary position between us and the programmers, and her job is to take these requests and either track down the VO, download the VO, and put it into a Dropbox, or some stations, she actually will send the copy off to the VO. So she's kind of our in-between, so that PDs aren't hitting us up and saying, oh, we need to tweak this, and we need to do this, because there's a lot of programmers that like to tweak for no other reason than to just be hands-on.
Have their say.
And and so when there's 100 stations, it's like you can't do that. Yeah. So we've got an in between.
Have you heard of the DFA fader?
Every studio needs one.
Everybody needs one of those.
Yeah, it's a magic fader that we use. That it stands for does fuck all, but you do something and you tweak it and you go, here you go, PD. You've had your say, and here's the promo. Oh yeah, it sounds so much better, and you know that you've done fuck all, and it's actually just fine.
I've renamed more files in my life than I've actually edited them. So duplicate and rename.
Brilliant.
My file naming style is pretty much final A, final B, I'll go through the alphabet, and then I'll final, really final, you know. Yeah. So basically the title of the file is so long it won't even say.
That's pretty much.
So do you find, Gav, you have to? There's lots of time-saving exercises you need to do.
Yeah. One of them is not using Pro Tools as often anymore.
Even with this offline bounce.
See, it's like they introduce something that I love, and then at the same time they break something else. My time-saving stuff it's shortcuts. It's obviously having good file management. It's saving every session because I never know when I'm going to. I mean, we get concert promos.
You never know when it's going to crash.
Well, that, and then also, I mean, right now, concerts are starting to come back. Country is the one that's doing it, of course. They're the first ones to, put everybody in a building without a mask, and it's fine. So, Thomas Rhett announces that he's going on tour, and of course, the first stop is Florida, but right after that, it's going to be South Carolina. So, I can open up that promo and kind of rearrange it and stuff, so... It's a lot of that. It's a lot of kind of filing things away, knowing that, this is a big tour. So obviously there's going to be at least 15 to 20 cities that are part of our team or part of our list that are going to need a Thomas Rhett concert promo. Dropbox is big with our team. Just being able to share like VO and sessions even. I'm out today and tomorrow, so... Ashley, if there's any promo revisions that come in, she can open up my session and tweak it.
I think it also probably helps that Gavin is really proactive at connecting with other talent. And so, there's a relationship there where he can, especially when it comes to last minute stuff, he can, lean on people. I know that I've always told Gavin because, he produces my voice that, he can always hit me directly if there's a problem. So I think, but Gavin's really good about connecting with people, and as you can tell, he's busy. The last thing I want to do is be the guy who doesn't get my stuff back to him in time. Because
my VO voodoo dolls have shrunken, which is nice. I don't have as many problem children anymore, especially not doing commercial production. the commercial VOs that we used to use. When I was doing commercial production, it was all through this hub, and you'd request people, and it was like, okay, well, it's assigned to them, but am I going to get it, in 20 minutes or an hour or 2 days later? Because that's also happened. So,
well, Stoney touched on something I wanted to ask you was if you're that slammed every day, if a voiceover turns up late or something like that, I mean, it must throw your whole day out of whack. You must have to think on your feet constantly.
It does, but at the same time, there's enough other work to be doing. So it's kind of like, okay, I don't have VO for this yet, so I'm going to tackle these other 4 projects that I do have VO for. And obviously, if this comes in, then I will do everything I can to get it back to him on time. But also, if this is something that we're going to have to email the PD and say, hey, sorry, your guy took 2 days to get us the VO. You're not going to have it back by 3:00 today. And that's what's nice about having that intermediary person. Her name's Nicole.
Shout out to Nicole.
Yeah. Nicole makes my life so much easier.
She's your imaging shield.
We love Nicole.
Exactly. Yeah, she's the first line of defense.
Gav, I think you said you were going to send her some roses today, didn't you?
Is that right, Gav? Did you do that?
I buy her a cup of coffee as well, I think, was also part of something you were talking about before. Yeah.
Gavin was mentioning Ashley, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that not only is Ashley a great producer, she's also a voiceover person. She's supremely talented. So that's another great X factor in the in the creative process where you've got somebody who's got that experience producing. There's a lot more savviness from her in that group, which is great.
And she's awesome too, because, every once in a while a PD will write in some wild line that, they just think that we're a casting agency and we've got, oodles of voices, and every once in a while I can grab my wife, or, you can get me. But, having somebody like Ashley, especially, she is in the demo for a lot of CHR, Hot AC stuff. She reads copy just brilliantly. As a woman who is in the demo, she can sound like a Valley girl. She can sound excited about, some concert that I'm not going to get excited about, or,
That's perfect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of formats that I don't fit the demo in, but I always feel that mental maturity, I'm somewhere between SpongeBob and Borat. So I can make it work.
That Mankini's a good look, I got to say.
So talking of saving time, are you guys familiar with SoundFlow? This is something me and Adam got into recently.
Yeah, I tried the demo.
There's so many things. There's so many things that have the word sound in it. I'm sure I've got it bookmarked somewhere, but refresh my memory.
So essentially, you can automate tedious tasks and macros for Pro Tools.
Oh, yeah, I do have that bookmarked. Yeah, it's in the App Store.
Yeah, so you trigger them off like a conventional keyboard or an iPad tablet or Stream Deck, which is what Adam and I have got. And then you assign a selection of shortcuts. Normal tasks you would do with 3 mouse clicks or 2 mouse clicks. It's one button.
Now, does it work? Is it app specific? Like, does it have Pro Tools presets?
Yes, yeah. So you can get Pro Tools presets.
Well, it's based on like a user forum, so people will put up their presets for Pro Tools, but it will also work for Logic or for Reaper or whatever else. But it also works for Mac itself.
Sweet, yeah. Soundflow.org.
So it's a subscription, but you'll get
very
new,
cool.
As and when people request new commands and macros, you'll get new ones every single day or every week on the forum. So it's ever evolving.
I've been a devout listener of the gospel of Jeff Berlin when it comes to macros.
Yeah.
He has really hooked me up with some great time savers.
This sort of dovetails into the Clubhouse forum that, or room, I guess you should say, that both you, Gavin, and Steve, you put on, that was about 2 a.m. for me. And it was absolutely fantastic. It was a room of about 15, 20 people, some incredible voiceovers and producers in that room. I'm trying to think who was there. You guys, and there was Kelly was in there, and DJ Goofy White Kid, and
that was the one that Nick Daly and did Eric Chase even show up for that one a little bit?
I don't think Eric was in there.
It wasn't Eric. Maybe
I don't remember that one. Was I there, Gavin?
Yeah, it was Nick. I know Nick Daly was on that one. Maybe it was Miles. I don't. Every Clubhouse kind of blurs together now because we're in them every week. But
we've done a few.
It was great to be part of that sort of creative collective.
It's a dream to be able to chat with other creatives so easily. I mean, obviously the conversation we're having now, and Clubhouse, and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it is so important for me because I get inspired by others, and when I can actually talk to them live, there's such a great and I hate this keyword. I hate the word synergy, but it's that sort of I just always get really excited and just that it just gets me going. It's sustenance for me. So it's important.
Certainly at a time when there's been so many lockdowns and the last year or so, to have something like this that you can just tap into and all of a sudden you're connecting with people all over the world, and it's so casual. I think that it's we could do this before, and we could, if we wanted, a Skype or Teams or whatever, but there's just something about Clubhouse that makes it so casual to be able to set something up and jump on and not have to think too much about it and have a good chat, share some ideas, and then close it down at the end of the day. It's really nice to be able to do that.
It's also, I think nowadays too, it also goes to show beyond the isolation of COVID, I think it just goes to show how the creative community is very open and always willing to share information or collaborate or give advice, challenge each other. I've got a younger client that I've tried to, because he's very, very young, very new, and so he didn't really grow up with radio per se. He comes from a much younger generation. So when he asks questions, I try to be as giving as I can with time. And I just think it's important. I think it's our responsibility as stewards of our business, of our craft, you know?
It raises the tide for everyone, for all creativity.
Well, and especially now where in a lot of places, you know, there's not multiple creative people like imaging producers in a cluster.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stations that don't even have an imaging person. You know, like I said, it's a night guy that kind of got the imaging thing thrown on his plate, and he doesn't really have any idea of how to do it or who to connect with. And you know, we've had some of those people pop into Clubhouse, or even new VO talent that are interested in finding out about imaging. And it's been fun to hear, you know, these people, you hear them for the first time and they're asking all of these questions. And, you know, a couple weeks later, it's like they're part of the conversation and they're asking, or they're answering questions from other people. So it feels like there's a lot more growth than I've seen in a long time within especially the imaging community. There's a lot more people that are interested in it, which is,
that's very encouraging.
You know, great. I hope that there are opportunities for them, because it seems like those are kind of few and far between.
Absolutely.
I think Gavin would agree with me when I say that I was infinitely blessed with guidance and advice and mentorship when I was first getting into the business. Even to this day, I still have mentors that offer me guidance and advice. And so to me, it's just a natural evolution where I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, again, there's no way I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for the kindness of others. You know, people who didn't have to spend time with me, who did. People who didn't have to answer my phone calls, who did. I'm eternally grateful for that. I think that there is so much to be said for encouragement. You know, it's free.
Right.
It can mean the world to somebody.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
We usually go on at the end of the podcast to talk about plugins. So throwing it over to you guys, what are your go-tos? What could you not live without? And is there anything recently that you've discovered that has been world-changing?
Steve, I can go, but I know Steve sends me plugins all the time. So
yeah, I'm kind of a bad influence on people. You know, I'll send a list of things that I've found, and people will email me back and saying, "Hey, thanks, dude. I spent money that I shouldn't have." You know? But
you're a great salesman.
Honestly, the best thing that's happened in the last handful of years has been the Universal Audio Apollo interface and console platform. I was so, as soon as it came out, I was like, that is for me, because we've moved a few times over the last few years, and the last thing I want to do is move giant heavy pieces of rack gear. Everything I do now is software. Done. Not only is it relatively affordable, it takes up no space, and when I travel, I can unplug this and throw it in my backpack, and the same quality is in a hotel room as it is here at the home studio. To me, that's just been a game changer. The emulation, the plugin emulations, I even have, I bought I'm not sure if you guys heard about the Townsend Labs L22 Sphere modeling microphone system. I bought that system and been playing with it, trying to get it online in my booth. That's another game changer. To be able to switch between a U87 mic model and switch to a ribbon microphone or to an SM57 with the click of a mouse click. It's ridiculous. So to me, the future is and always has been software. And so for me, the Universal Audio console platform is I cannot work without it. Again, in just my ecosystem, it's great because I have definitely become a lot more minimalistic when it comes to my studio.
I'm just looking at this Townsend now. This looks fantastic for voiceovers.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The mic models that it comes with are all the mics that you would love to be able to go and buy. Yeah. U87, which is usually around, more than $3,000 American dollars. for a new U87 AI. They have a 416 model in there. They've got ribbon microphones. They've got dynamic microphones. They've got the C12. They've got the Elam 251. I mean, it's ridiculous what you can do. And I'm sold. I mean, that's just, I actually was on a waiting list for almost a year to get one, and I wouldn't have been able to get one if a buddy of mine didn't let me take his place in line, because they've run into a production snag as far as it's taken them a long time. I think that there was issues with the supply chain, probably due to COVID and other things, and so they're hard to find right now. But yeah, I'm glad. It's probably the last mic I'll ever buy.
How does that work with the character of your voice? Now that you have, instead of spending thousands and thousands of dollars on all these different models of microphones, being able to test them out in such a way, have you discovered what you perceive works better with your voice, or brings out different characteristics, or what have you kind of deduced from being able to do all of this?
Well, one of the cool things about because I'm sitting at my desk right now, and I'm just sitting and talking on a 416 at my desk, so it doesn't, I've been using a 416 as my day-to-day microphone for my work for years and years and years. But to have a secondary option for a large diaphragm option, I can sit there and dial in a model on this mic and have the option for any project to be, hey, you know what? This is a narration project, so I want it to be nice and warm. Let me use the U87. This is going to be something very intimate. I need some characters, so let's pull up a 251. I mean, it's pretty crazy, but this mic, the base mic itself, the stock mic, is a very neutral, tuned microphone, so that these modeling presets can work, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, there's videos online, and so if you get a chance to watch some of these videos, you'll be like, wow, that is the coolest thing.
This is fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, but again, in my opinion, software is it, period, done. That's the way I'm going to roll. I just think it works best for me. I don't like clutter, and I also have a lot of what I consider very expensive doorstops in my garage because people just don't want to spend the money on hardware, and or it's people don't have the space.
And Gavin, over to you.
I'm a habitual plug-in buyer. I would say I'm less of a plug-in user, which is a problem. I've always used Waves, and so for me, it's like everything in my session always seems to just be a Waves plugin because I know my way around them. I like how they sound. I've always used them. I've bought sound toys. I've got the Apollo as well. I've got universal audio plugs, and occasionally I'll use them and mess around with them. But a lot of the time it's like I go back to what I know, and Waves has never really let me down. It was, baby's first plug-in bundle. And now, after all of the sales and the upgrade offers and stuff, now I have the Mercury bundle.
Don't they give that away for free now? Or don't they pay you to take that? I think there's always a sale.
No, the gold bundle. That's the gold bundle. I think the gold bundle is every imaging producer's rite of passage, isn't it? A copy of the gold bundle. Yep.
I started with gold, and then it was like Black Friday. It was $99 to upgrade to diamond, and then a year later it was Horizon, and then it was like I had to pay the Waves upgrade plan, and I looked at the price to do that versus just upgrading to the Mercury bundle, and I was like, I'll just upgrade to the Mercury bundle, and so that's what I use for pretty much everything.
Well, then I reckon
So what are you getting a lot of use out of then? So
that's a better question for you. Is what are you using the most out of that lot? Then?
Because there is obviously a lot when it comes to Waves. There's such a plethora of plugins they've got there.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Renaissance EQ. I think that's the best EQ that they have for VO filters. I've got about 80 presets that I've saved over the years, and I'll go through. I've got chains that are, based on a certain EQ curve that is saved in there. And, I've replicated over the years, like the Kelly Doherty filter and the, You know, I love the REQ. On the back end of everything, like the very last thing in my mastering chain is the Renaissance reverb, and it's set at like 1 or 2% wet. So it's super minimal, but it always gives everything kind of just like a nice little trail at the end. So it's not completely dry, and it always sounds good on the air. I like the C1 compressor for super dirty, quick compression. I hate the L1. Everybody seems to love the L1, and I hate that.
Yeah, I get that. It sounds very boxy and very dated.
Yeah, to me, it's either the L2 or the L3, and a lot of times it's the L2 because I just
that's very versatile.
That's one that I know really well. And then I guess the other one that I use a lot is I use Ozone, and I'm wondering if I want to keep using Ozone because it seems like they're going the way of the subscription bundle, and I just cannot afford to keep adding on subscriptions.
No,
that is life.
I've got Avid, I've got Adobe, I've got I tried the SoundFlow thing, and it was like, when I do my taxes every year and I have all of these write-offs at the same time, it's like, is it really worth paying, almost $120 a month on just software rentals?
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
Forget the tax man. You've also got to answer to your wife. Or I do. I don't know about you, but it's like. So, just interesting. Just on the whole waves thing. When you say you've got a whole bunch of presets, are you using the waves rack? Like setting up your sequence of stuff and leaving it all preset, so you basically just...
Yeah, I should be, because I switch DAWs a lot, and I haven't set that up yet. I need to, because that would make my life way easier. I'm on the boycott Pro Tools bandwagon right now. I have it, I pay for it, I use it occasionally, and at the same time I hate it. So
Yeah, it's a tough one. Love it or hate it, right?
Yeah. Well, the problem is there's nothing that I like editing in more, but at the same time, there's all of these issues and bugs, and I feel like I'm spending so much money to beta test for them.
So what are you relying on if you churn out so much production each day? What are you now using that can do that better than Pro Tools?
Well, so when I started this new position, it was either Pro Tools or Adobe Audition. And so I was like, well, obviously Pro Tools. Right. Because I haven't used Adobe since the very first Creative Cloud version that they came out with that supported the Mac. And I used it a little bit then, but then I switched over. I switched to Pro Tools. I've dabbled with Logic, Ableton. I was on Studio One for about 3 or 4 years. And so they said, well, we want to be able to share sessions. So when you're on vacation and something comes in, we can do this. And so it was like Ashley's using Adobe Audition and my manager's using Pro Tools. So it was one of those two. And initially I tried Pro Tools, which was working okay, except I needed to buy a new Mac, and those only support Big Sur. So Big Sur support wasn't updated. And then they finally updated it to Big Sur, and I was like, great. Everything's good. I'll start using Pro Tools, and I've run into a bug with this latest version where the waveform display is different than the audio when I'll zoom in at a certain level.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
I have seen that. I consolidate
it's stuff like
it
that where, like I said, when you're
back.
producing upwards of 60 pieces on a really busy day, little things like that, it throws me off. So I opened up Adobe Audition just like, I need to get this done and out the door, and Pro Tools is kind of being a bitch right now. So I was putting stuff together, and Adobe's really done a really good job of updating the way that the shortcuts work so that I could remap all of my Pro Tools shortcuts into Audition. So, trimming clips and all of that work like Pro Tools, and I can't do.
So it feels the same.
Yeah, it feels the same. It's super fast. The only downside is if I wanted to do like MIDI or like a stutter edit type thing, which I rarely do now because I just don't have the time. I'd have to open up a different DAW, do it, and then mix it down and bring it into the Adobe session. But that to me it's less of a problem than working through a session with inaccurate waveforms.
Just a quick aside from what you just said, take you back. You just said I don't have the time. Is that a frustration? Is that like, do you sometimes walk away at the end of the day and you go, well, my stuff I did sounds good, but it could have been better?
No, I wouldn't say that it's a frustration, because like I won't mix something down and send it out if I'm not okay with it. If I'm not, I could sit and do the perpetual, tweak this knob and edit this and move this here, and you can do that all day. The nice thing about having so much on a to-do list is you're kind of forced to make decisions about, all right, what's the important thing that needs to be said in this? Do I really need a stutter here? Do I really need to beat mix it? Or, and a lot of PDs now, they don't want that anyways. So it's kind of forced you to clean up your production to where the message is more clear. And my thing is, when I say I don't have the time, it's less about I don't have the time to be creative or make something sound cool. It's more I don't have the time to deal with technology slowing me down.
Sure.
And revisions from the PD, maybe.
Well, yeah, there's that too. I could think a stutter's super cool, and then the PD could come back and be like, what the hell's that?
Well, I think maybe to wrap things up, you guys should each pick one piece of your choice that we haven't played that you sent us through. We can have a chat about.
Let me look at my folder real quick and see what I sent you guys.
I really like the 49ers post-win.
Yeah, that was really good. Whatever you want. I mean, there's plenty to choose from. Yeah, go for it.
The Niners tamed the Bills on Monday Night Football. Reacting all day tomorrow.
This is unbelievable.
On the Bay Area's football station, 95.7. The Game.
Very cool.
I got to give props to
that's cool.
The producer is Brian Ratto from 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, the sports station. And he's a young guy, and he's got a lot of creative energy, and I really enjoy working with him. He asks tons of questions. He wants to learn, and he's at an amazing situation, which is a sports radio station in a major market. And I will send him emails like Gavin was saying, "Hey man, look at this plugin, dude." That I believe that one was when I turned him on to Output software.
Yeah.
Portal and he was like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever." And so, yeah, I mean, it's very, very fortunate to work with some really great producers. Obviously, Gavin being one of them, but the credit goes to Brian Ratto from The Game in San Francisco for that tease, and that's always fun because they'll send me scripts, and a lot of the stuff is read in different styles. Like they'll ask for, we want this thing to sound very trailerish, and they have a lot of drama and. So I love doing sports work. That's a lot of fun for me.
It certainly had that trailer vibe with a bit of a kind of CHR energy to it. So I hadn't heard sports
aggressive,
imaging. Yeah, aggressive. Nice. Yeah, it was very cool.
All right, Gav, hit us up. What are we going to play next?
I love the voice guy on this piece. So do the WXTB Summer.
Ice scrapers up north in the winter, spatulas in Florida in the summer to peel your ass off that black leather you just had to have. 98 Rock, Tampa Bay's rock station.
Malcolm is so good.
Yeah, Malcolm Riker,
I
brother.
love that line, peel yourself off the black leather you had to have. I think that's a ripper.
I got a great story about Malcolm. He is supremely talented, and what you hear is what you get. I mean, that is who he is. I was in Vegas for a conference or something, and another radio buddy of mine, Josh Jensen, said, "Hey, I'm in Vegas too. I'm here for Malcolm's wedding. So meet us at this hotel." And I happened to walk in during Malcolm's wedding reception in Vegas, and he is a complete badass, and just that voice. It just oozes attitude. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm very fortunate to do what I do, but I'm also a fan of the people that are in this business. So I geek out a lot of times when I hear things or meet people. So I consider myself extremely fortunate to be to be part of this process.
Malcolm, too. A couple of weeks ago, the PD, I believe it was actually this station, but Malcolm voices a couple of the stations on our list of stations to do. And the PD sent in copy points, not copy points, and said, just have Malcolm riff, just have him riff and create a promo with these copy points. And when I saw that request come through, I just immediately was like, seriously? Like, who has the time to go through takes and put together a promo? And Malcolm, as talented as he is, he looked at the copy points, and I think it's because he's also a producer. Mm-hmm. He just gave me like bullet point sound bites, and putting that promo together honestly may have been even easier than when I have copy that's actually dictated by the PD.
Wow.
Cool. Where the PD will say, oh, put this sound effect here and I was dreading it until I got the VO, and Malcolm somehow he took that and mined it into a diamond.
Again, it just goes to show you that there are people that are so uniquely tailored to do what they do, and Malcolm's one of those people. I really want to say thank you so much for including me in this conversation. This was a lot of fun, and I would love to, chat again if that was ever of interest. And
it's been
absolutely,
great.
Yeah, it's been.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful.
It means a lot
to
me, and Gavin knows how I feel about him. I'm really fortunate to work with people who are just solid people, and Gavin's just at the top of the list right there as far as production. Just
There's some brotherly love.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
Steve, I love you back, and the check's in the mail.
Actually, I don't accept money now. I just accept plugins.
Oh, well, good. You can have all of the ones that I bought and don't use.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
The Imaging Hangout podcast with Darren Robbo Robertson, Adam Burgess, and Tom Cross, talking anything and everything. Want to join in the conversation? Just message one of the guys.